How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Perfect Reload. My name is Steve, and we're going to check out the Star Wars Outlaws trailer that came out today. This is a game that I am super excited about. It's probably my most anticipated game now that we know it's coming out this year. The date leaked before the trailer came out. We know it's coming out later this year. So yeah, I've been super excited about this. I think it got shown off for the first time last year, oddly enough, at the Xbox conference, just a couple days before the Ubisoft conference. But at the Ubisoft conference, we saw like actual gameplay. I think it was just the cinematic like CGI trailer at the Xbox presentation. But I am really interested in seeing what they're going to do with this. I've been a real big fan of the Jedi games that EA and Respawn have put out, and I'm cooled off a lot over the past decade or so with Ubisoft titles in general, just a little bit of burnout, but I think that they still have the possibility to make a great game. And everything I saw, despite it was just a small slice of things, I thought looked pretty promising overall. So I am very much looking forward to this. I haven't seen the trailer yet, so we're going to look at it together for the first time. But I did, I saw the news this morning that the date leaked, and I find myself with a little bit of free time in the middle of the day on, what is today? Today's Tuesday. So I figured I'd sit down and let's take a look at this thing. So yeah, why don't we get into it?
Each of you represents some of the most powerful criminal organizations in the galaxy. Pikes, Crimson Dawn, Hutts. It's a golden age for the underworld. The Empire controls every corner of the galaxy, but they're distracted by a rebellion that won't quit. It's an opportunity to make millions.
Let's get that money.
Hey, Vess. The underworld's favorite new
Still definitely got that 80s mom hair. I absolutely love it.
What do you want?
Zarek Besh. They're new, rich, and lethal. You crossed their boss Sliro, and now
Sliro
gone. Rob his fortune and buy your freedom.
This job, it's a death wish. I'm in.
Ooh, that looks pretty.
Die by your reputation. You want to survive? Know the players.
You're new to this world.
What's your problem?
Come back when you're not.
I like the character design. It's familiar but new.
Look, don't try anything. I got a whole crew.
There we go.
Okay, we're skipping that part.
Some Jabba.
For about as long as I can remember, it's just been me and Nix. Doing what we have to survive. This job is my one shot at freedom. But if we're gonna pull this off, we need the right crew.
Ooh.
And the right ship.
I was hoping that that's kind of where they're going to go with this, with like building a crew, getting a ship.
Yes. Hang on.
I hire you because you are one of the best hunters in the Outer Rim.
She's more connected than you let on, Sliro. Vess is mixed up in something bigger.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's neat.
Is a dangerous place. Everyone is fighting for their piece of the galaxy. But all I want is to live free. So I'm gonna risk it all. Hold on, Nick!
Star Wars Outlaws pre-order available now.
3 days early access. All right. All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was hoping for maybe some gameplay, but that's fine. I'm sure we're going to see plenty of gameplay when Ubisoft does their summer event, which they already announced. They said it's going to be around the same time as the Xbox event and Summer Game Week. A few things of note. I like seeing the different traversal options, that like speeder that goes across the water. I also saw it going across like sand desert-ish area. For this being an open world game, you're definitely gonna need some type of traversal options, because it's not, it's a sci-fi fantasy world. It's not just as simple as like a Grand Theft Auto or something where it's like, oh, it makes sense for me to just like carjack somebody and then now I have a vehicle, or I find a parked vehicle and I can break into it. Maybe they have those things like speeders are laying around and you can hop onto them and all that. But I would be very surprised if there is we know that there's a wanted level system in the game from that initial gameplay trailer, but I have to imagine that's tied more to these like factions. My guess is that you're going to have to either ingratiate yourself with the different factions, potentially upset other factions, and maybe that's what that is, or that wanted level is just a general, like the Empire is trying to come and get you. I can't imagine that it's going to be tied to like minor crimes if they are possible in the game. I'm assuming blaster is going to be main form of weaponry. I hope they don't go do some stupid thing where it's like Kay all of a sudden becomes a Jedi or discovers that she has the potential. You know, I hope they don't do that, and I don't think they're going to. We saw like a grappling hook and like a swinging like rope mechanic in a couple of scenes, so maybe that's going to be an option for traversal. I think that the character design is cool. City design, it is what it is. I mean, I immediately got flashbacks of Jedi Survivor when I saw some of that stuff, because it's like, you feel like even though this is an entirely different game, entirely different studio, it is still that Star Wars universe. And I believe these are taking place during the same time frame. So even though it's two different games, two different studios, it still feels almost a little samey. And I'm hoping that there'll be a wide variety of places to go. I know that there's been like a lot of articles that have been written over the past however many years. It's like, we've got to stop going back to Tatooine when it comes to Star Wars stuff. And I'm definitely on board with that. I think we need to kind of explore some bigger areas of the universe. But I like what I saw. I think it was a solid setup, a good trailer. You know, we're in April, so we got two more months until like the bigger reveal, I guess. I'm just hoping at this point it doesn't get delayed, because we are looking a little thin for the second half of the year. I'm sure, obviously, you know, once we get to the summer months and people start making their announcements for games, you know, it'll flesh things out a little bit. But aside from like your annual releases like Call of Duty, Madden, NBA, you know, stuff like that, like we really don't know what the second half of this year looks like. Now, I am a big believer that this year is going to be a very much a smaller scale year in video games than last year, because we're coming off the heels of 2023, arguably the greatest year in video game releases ever, to be honest. It's right up there with like 98. So just by proxy of so many companies been working on these games, releasing them, and then also the years previous, other big studios releasing their games, everybody's just kind of wound up in the same cycle of either we just released a game or we're not there yet, and we're looking at like 25 or 26 for a release date. So it's just going to be like a quieter year overall. Doesn't mean a bad year. There's been some fantastic games out so far this year. But I think this also gives the opportunity that if they don't end up delayed and they do come out this year, the Star Wars Outlaws could end up being potentially the biggest game of the year. So I think they've kind of set themselves up for a really good spot if they do make that release date. But I am very much looking forward to it. Obviously, a lot of questions coming out of it, you know, because all we can do really right now is make assumptions about gameplay stuff, right? Like we did see the general third person open world gameplay in that trailer last year, but things have changed. We're going to be a year later. You know, what tweaks have they made to that, if any at all? And I think the bigger question now is going to be, with this story trailer that we just saw setting up this whole faction warfare thing, we need to know, what are the gameplay mechanics for these factions? Is it a Fallout system where you can join them? Or are they just going to kind of always be just a looming threat and you're kind of on your own? She says we need to get a crew and a ship. Can there be multiple ships? Can you customize your ship? Can you build your ship? Can you buy and sell ships? Crew, are we set for, you know, this is going to be your kind of party, for lack of a better term, or can we hire different people? Can I end up with a different crew of people than somebody I know that's playing the game? All we've seen so far is her and is it Nix, Rix, Bix, Fix, something like that, the little critter that's with her. That's all we've seen together so far. And they're obviously going to be the star of the show. I have to imagine that there probably aren't going to be any other playable characters but besides the two of them. So I just want to know how this all gets fleshed out. But I think the thing is like all these questions that I have, and questions that I'm sure a lot of people have going into this, none of these questions are like bad questions. None of them seem to be, they're not concerning questions. They're just, hey, we're really excited for this game. What do you got for us, Ubisoft? Like, hey, let's kind of go on this one. I think people are going to be excited about this game. I think, last year, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago, Jedi Survivor was super well received. Obviously, it did get marred by a lot of technical issues, but in terms of like the actual game, people really, really liked it. Now, for me personally, or I'm sorry, Star Wars was last year. My God, it feels like forever ago. No, it was last year. My biggest problem with that game was just like the total and complete lack of story. It just didn't really have one. So I'm hoping that Star Wars Outlaws kind of fills that void, because we have been getting very good Star Wars stories. I know people have kind of cooled off on the Disney Plus shows, and I haven't watched all of them, but I really like what they did with The Mandalorian. People really enjoyed Andor. I don't know about the Ahsoka stuff. I haven't seen it. I never really watched the animated stuff, so I don't really have a connection to that character in a big way. I personally even liked the Obi-Wan series. I thought that was pretty good. So I think the potential is there for Ubisoft and for Massive to tell a really interesting and unique Star Wars story, especially if they really keep true to this promise of this title Outlaws. Like, is she really going to be an outlaw? Because remember, like Han Solo, like, yes, they turned that character and kind of just to a generic hero, but he was supposed to be this kind of like gray area character before we really meet him and get introduced to him in the story, where he was working for criminals. And I'm sure he had done some pretty rough stuff to get out of situations. So is that what we're going to see with Kay Vess in this? And also Sliro, just top tier Star Wars villain name, just absolutely fantastic. And A+ for that one. But yeah, I guess right now we just kind of wait and see for the next couple of months and see what happens at the Ubisoft press conference. But I am thoroughly turgid, very excited for this game. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. And we'll see you again real soon.